At our company holiday party, my married CEO pulled me aside and whispered, "No one has to know." Disgusted, I rejected him, but the next day, I was suddenly fired. Instead of accepting it, I sent his wife a flash drive containing office security footage of his late-night meetings. A week later, he walked into a boardroom full of lawyers. And his wife's revenge was just getting started. I, 33 female, used to work in the marketing department at a large tech company in Chicago. I'd been there for over 4 years. I liked my job. I worked hard, got along with my team, and had even been promoted twice. I was never late, never had HR issues, never crossed any lines. I was proud of what I did and where I worked. Our CEO, Richard, not his real name, was in his early 50s. Big personality, very polished, very well connected. He was the type to remember your birthday but forget your name. He had that slick charm that made people feel special around him. He was married to Elizabeth, who was well known in Chicago for her charity work and had a pretty strong public image. Together, they looked like a power couple. Every year the company throws a huge holiday party in December. It's always held at one of those fancy downtown hotels, this time it was the Grand Hyatt. Dress code was formal, dinner and open bar, dancing, the works. Everyone from interns to senior execs showed up. The night started off great. I wore a green satin dress, had my hair done, and felt confident. I was talking with some of my team near the bar when I saw Richard making his way over. I thought he was just doing his rounds like usual. He always made it a point to shake hands and chat with a few lower-level employees at these things, probably for optics. When he came up to me, he complimented my dress. I said thank you and tried to keep it casual. He asked how things were going in marketing. I gave the usual update. Then he offered me a glass of champagne and nodded toward the quieter side of the ballroom. I hesitated. I didn't want to be rude to the CEO, but I also didn't feel comfortable stepping away from the crowd. He smiled and said, "Just a minute, I promise. It's too loud over here." We stepped just outside onto one of the hotel balconies. It was cold but quiet, and the music was muffled behind the glass doors. That's when things got weird. He leaned in way too close and said, "You're very impressive, Sarah. I've had my eye on you for a while." I kind of laughed nervously and stepped back. "Thanks, I guess?" Then he said it. Clear as day. "No one has to know." I froze. "Excuse me?" He smiled like he'd just offered me a drink. "We're both adults. What happens between us could stay between us." I was completely stunned. I think I blinked at him for a full 5 seconds before I said anything. Then I said, "I'm not interested. This isn't appropriate." He dropped the smile instantly. His voice changed. "Think carefully. This could be a win for both of us." I shook my head. "No. I need to go." I walked back inside, my heart pounding. I didn't tell anyone what happened that night. I just wanted to pretend it didn't happen and move on. The next morning, I came into the office like normal. Nothing seemed off at first, but then I got a calendar invite for a quick check-in with HR. It was unusual, but I figured it might be related to some holiday logistics or maybe time-off approvals. Nope. I walked into the HR office and there were 2 people in the room, our HR director and someone from the legal department. That's when I knew something was off. They sat me down and said, "We've received reports about your behavior at the holiday party." I was shocked. I asked what kind of behavior. They were vague. Said there were concerns about how I interacted with leadership. Then came the bombshell. "We've decided to terminate your employment effective immediately." I couldn't breathe for a second. I just kept staring at them. "Are you serious?" They repeated, "You're free to seek independent legal counsel if you wish." I left the office with nothing. I didn't sign a thing. I packed up my desk, humiliated and furious. I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. That whole week, I barely left my apartment. I kept going over everything in my head. How fast it all happened. How powerless I felt. How fake all the "we care about our employees" messaging really was. Then something clicked. Our building had security cameras. Everywhere. In the hallways, elevators, lobbies. Even in Richard's office, as far as I remembered. That's how they kept high-level security, they'd said during orientation. I reached out to someone I trusted, Mark, an old friend in the IT department. He was one of the good ones. I asked him to meet me for coffee and told him everything. He was hesitant at first. Said messing with internal security could get him fired. But when I told him exactly what Richard said to me on that balcony, his face changed. A few days later, Mark handed me a flash drive. He said, "This has the last 90 days of footage from Richard's office and the main floor. If he's done this to you, there's a good chance there's more." I spent hours combing through it. The things I saw made my stomach turn. Late-night meetings with women who looked uncomfortable. Some left in tears. Some stayed longer. A few times, the blinds were closed, but timestamps and patterns painted a clear story. I didn't go to HR. I didn't go to a lawyer, at least not yet. I mailed the flash drive to one person, Richard's wife. Elizabeth. No letter. No name. Just the flash drive in a padded envelope. I sent it to her office address. That was 2 weeks ago. What happened next deserves its own post. Because she didn't just get mad. She got even. And she knew exactly how to hit him where it hurt. It started with a LinkedIn post from someone in finance. Just a vague one. What a day. I've never seen that many suits in one room. I felt my pulse jump. Then, my phone buzzed. A text from Mark, "Whatever you did, you might want to check the company site." I opened it. And there it was. Richard D. will be stepping away from his role as CEO, effective immediately. Interim leadership will be announced soon. No statement from Richard. No goodbye note. Just that cold, corporate sentence. But that wasn't the real story. The real story was what happened behind closed doors. And I only know because someone who was in the room called me. Her name's Talia. She used to be in legal before she transferred out to another firm. We weren't close, but we had lunch a few times. She called me out of the blue the next day, sounding like she'd just stepped out of a fire. "I can't talk long," she said. "But you need to know, she didn't just expose him. She ambushed him." Apparently, Elizabeth had called an emergency board meeting. Claimed it was about urgent ethics concerns. Nobody suspected a thing. When Richard walked in, he probably thought it was just routine damage control. But then he saw her. And the lawyers. And a monitor already playing footage from the flash drive. The room went dead silent. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't say anything at all. She just hit play. Minutes of footage. Timestamp after timestamp. Woman after woman. Some footage was blurry. But not all of it. Some moments were impossible to explain away. When Richard tried to speak, she cut him off. "Don't lie," she said. "Don't make this worse." When he stood up to leave, one of her lawyers stood up too. "You're not going anywhere yet." Apparently, he sat back down like someone had cut his strings. The board wasn't just horrified, they were furious. Not because of what he did. But because of what it could cost them. This company was their cash cow. The kind with investors, government contracts, public scrutiny. If this got out, stock would tank. Lawsuits would line up. People would lose money. Elizabeth knew that. And she used it. Talia told me that Elizabeth already had her own lawyer in the room. Not just for the divorce, but to press charges. Civil and criminal. And here's where the twist hit me in the gut, Elizabeth hadn't just sent the footage to the board. She'd also sent it to 4 other women who had been fired in the past 2 years. Including one woman who had signed an NDA and walked away quietly. That NDA? Useless now. Elizabeth's legal team was challenging it under coercion and misconduct. One of the lawyers told Talia, "If we go to court, this company will not survive." So now the board had a choice, protect Richard and risk everything going public. Or cut him loose, clean house, and pray to rebuild. They chose the second one. But it wasn't over. Not even close. A few days later, I started getting messages from blocked numbers. One of them left a voicemail. It was Richard. "You think you've won," he said. "You have no idea what you've started." His voice sounded flat. Angry. But scared too. I didn't call back. I saved the voicemail and sent it to a lawyer I just hired. The next morning, someone tried to log into my old work email. 4 failed attempts in a row. Mark texted me again, "Someone's digging." I hadn't posted anything public. No Reddit thread. No interviews. No lawsuits. Yet. But it was clear they were trying to scare me. Make me back down before I caused more damage. The next twist came from an unexpected place, HR. Someone from my old team reached out to me, anonymously. They said people were panicking. That HR had started internal reviews. That some mid-level managers were being called into closed-door meetings. People were asking questions. wondering how deep Richard's abuse of power had gone. And who else knew? The anonymous message ended with this: "You're not the only one. Please don't stop." That was when I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. This was bigger. This was rot that went all the way to the core. The culture that let Richard do what he did wasn't just about him. It was about the people who let it happen, who stayed quiet, who swept complaints under the rug, who told women to take the compliment when they were uncomfortable. And now that the surface had been cracked, the whole thing was starting to bleed. What I didn't know yet, what none of us knew, was that someone else had been watching Richard too. And they were about to drop a bomb that would shake the company harder than anything Elizabeth or I had done. If you've been following this, you know I sent a flash drive to my married CEO's wife after he fired me for rejecting his advance. You know she didn't just confront him, she cornered him in a boardroom full of lawyers. And now you know the company is scrambling. But what I didn't expect was that the real collapse hadn't even started yet. 3 days after Richard's exit, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject. No intro. Just a line of text: "You're not alone. Meet me." I have proof he wasn't working alone. Attached was a photo of Richard, late at night in the office, with someone else in the room. It wasn't another woman. It was the chief operating officer. Her name is Michelle, again, not real name. She'd been with the company forever. I remembered when I joined, people called her the silent engine. She was tough, sharp, and incredibly private. Most assumed she and Richard were strictly professional. She was married too, had kids. But the photo showed her sitting on the edge of Richard's desk, laughing. Wine glass in hand. Office door locked. At first, I thought, maybe she was just another victim. Maybe he had something on her. Then I got the second email. This time, it had multiple attachments. Documents. Meeting notes. Screenshots of internal chat logs. Even HR forms, some altered, some incomplete. And one audio file. That file? It was a recording of Richard and Michelle plotting to remove someone from the company. The voice said, "She's not playing ball. We can't risk this becoming a thing." Michelle's voice replied, "Then we label it misconduct. Get HR to run interference." Richard, "She's smart. We need to do this quietly." Michelle, "I'll write the narrative." The timestamp? 3 days before I was fired. I felt physically sick. Michelle wasn't just complicit, she was coordinating with him. And it wasn't just about me. The documents revealed at least 3 other women in the past year whose files were flagged by Michelle. She had helped cover things up. Helped shuffle women out quietly, paid them off, buried the paper trail. I sent the audio file to my lawyer. Then I replied to the anonymous email. I asked, "Who are you?" The answer came a day later. "I'm someone who used to believe in the system here. I'm still on the inside. But not for long." Whoever she was, she knew everything. She sent me one last message before going dark. They're going to try to protect her. She's next in line for CEO. But if the board finds out what she did, they'll cut her loose to save themselves. I knew what I had to do. I sent everything to Elizabeth. This time, I didn't wait. I added a message, it wasn't just him. She didn't respond. But less than 72 hours later, it happened. Breaking news, COO resigns amid growing ethics investigation. No press conference. No statement. Just gone. But the company tried to spin it. Said she was stepping away to focus on her family. Said it was unrelated to Richard's exit. Except a leak hit Reddit within hours. Someone from inside, not me, posted a thread on r/Chicago Industry Leaks with the headline, "The CEO was bad, but the COO was worse. NDA or not, we're done staying silent." The thread included pieces of the documents I'd seen. The recording. Even testimony from 2 women who had been fired under Michelle's orders. It spread like wildfire. That same night, I got another message from Mark. "I just got laid off. Half the IT team's gone." Legal's panicking. They know more is coming. He was right. Because the next morning, something nobody expected happened. Elizabeth held a press conference. Not as the CEO's wife. As a newly appointed board member. She looked straight into the cameras and said, "This company failed its employees. Women were silenced, harassed, and discarded. I was one of the last to see it. But I won't be the last to act." She called for a full independent audit of the company's leadership, hiring practices, and HR records. She brought in outside investigators. Whistleblower protections. A complete policy overhaul. It was a takeover. But the twist? She hadn't forgiven the company. She was rebuilding it just long enough to sell it off and dismantle what her husband helped build. This wasn't healing. It was controlled demolition. And it still wasn't over. Because buried in the audit files was something nobody had seen coming. Something from 2 years ago. A formal complaint. Filed by an intern. Dismissed by HR. Shredded internally. But the intern had made copies. And she wasn't done yet. The intern's name was Maya. I'd never met her, but I remembered seeing her around the office 2 years ago, small, quiet, always tucked away in the marketing corner, head down, never causing a stir. She was just 19 then. A sophomore doing a summer internship through a local college program. The complaint she filed was short. Straight to the point. She'd accused Richard of inappropriate touching and late-night messages. She had screenshots. A witness, another intern, backed her up. And yet HR had dismissed it as a misunderstanding. That intern never came back after the summer. Neither did Maya. But here's what nobody knew, Maya's father was a retired lawyer. And he had advised her to save everything. He also told her to wait. Wait for the company to crumble enough that the risk wasn't all on her. So when Elizabeth's audit hit the news and whistleblower protections were announced, Maya contacted the firm conducting the investigation. That's when everything unraveled, fast. Elizabeth called for a public hearing. She said the culture of silence only survives in shadows, and it was time to drag the truth into the light. They set up the meeting in the main auditorium of the Chicago office. Cameras. Reporters. Employees. Lawyers. HR board members. Everyone. And somehow, I was invited too. I almost didn't go. I was scared. I didn't want to see Richard's face again, or Michelle's, or relive what happened. But I showed up. I sat near the back. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Elizabeth opened the hearing herself. She didn't cry. She didn't break down. She said, "We let a wolf run this place for years. And while we smiled and cashed checks, he hunted." Then Maya walked up. She looked older than I remembered. More confident. Still quiet, but with purpose in every word. She told her story. She showed her screenshots. She read the email HR had sent her after she reported him. "Please understand, these matters can be damaging to reputations. We trust this was simply a miscommunication." The room was dead silent. Then the other intern stepped forward. Her name was Layla. She told her part. She'd seen Maya leave Richard's office crying. She'd told a manager. That manager, apparently, had also moved on months later. It was like watching a dam collapse. But the final blow? Elizabeth stood and played a video. Not of Richard. Not of Michelle. Of the head of HR. Sitting in a meeting room, laughing, talking with Michelle about keeping things quiet. "I told her we looked into it," he said. "She'll back off. Probably scared off already." "I love when they get scared," Michelle said. "Makes our job easier." There was a collective gasp. The board members looked stunned. Some got up and left. One shouted, "This is enough." But Elizabeth wasn't done. She pointed at the HR director, who was in the room, and said, "You failed every woman in this building. You let power destroy people. And you're done." Security escorted him out. The COO? Michelle? She tried to issue a press statement the next day, blaming company culture and a lack of oversight. No one bought it. She was sued, personally. Richard? He vanished. Word is he's hiding out somewhere in Arizona. Disgraced. Divorced. And about to be buried under lawsuits. The aftermath after the hearing, people stayed behind. Talking. Crying. Some were hugging. Some were angry. Some looked numb. I just sat in my chair, watching it all. Then Elizabeth walked up to me. She didn't say thank you. She said, "I'm sorry you were alone in this for so long." I nodded. That was enough. Maya came over too. We hugged. She whispered, "You gave me the courage." I didn't know what to say to that. I still don't. The company? It's being sold off in pieces. Some departments will survive under new leadership. Others won't. The board is stepping down. New management is coming in. A real ethics team is being hired. It's a start. Reflection: I'm not the same person who walked into that holiday party months ago. Back then, I still believed there were lines people wouldn't cross. I've learned that power doesn't corrupt slowly. It shreds people quickly and quietly. Unless someone speaks. I lost my job. I lost months of sleep. I lost trust in a system I believed in. But what I gained? I gained truth. Maya is starting a nonprofit now, to support young women in internships and corporate programs. Mark got hired at another firm. He says they have women leading every department and that it actually feels safe. As for me? I'm freelancing. Writing. Helping other women build cases. Quietly. Carefully. But not alone this time. Do I feel hopeful? Some days. Do I feel angry? Yes. But mostly? I feel awake. The next time someone tells me, no one has to know, I'll smile. Because now, I know exactly how much power knowing really has.